secret sauce. Now I'm going to show you how to use it. So if you do not have anything on your device right now, you can go on your computer, on your phone, tablet, whatever it is. I would start with ChatGPT. I'm going to demonstrate with ChatGPT. Okay? And as I put things into ChatGPT, here's how you do it successfully, where you don't ask questions. Coach Stokes has a method. I hope you adopt this method. You take it with you. Everyone who is not lucky enough to be in this room does not have this method, and I charge people a lot of money to sit in front of them and teach them this method over and over again. The 3 T's. This is how you set the table. That's not one of the T's, but this is how you set the table for the interaction, the chat. Remember I said chat GPT. We got into what GPT was, but the chat is actually one of the most important parts of it. I go to Google, I ask a question, and I start going around figuring stuff out. Here, I'm supposed to start with a good prompt, not a question. A prompt is what I put into the chat. When I give it a good prompt, I will get a response. The better prompt I give, the better response I will get, the better patterns I will get. And then I'm supposed to take that response and respond to it, and continue chatting just like I chat with someone in real life, so that I can get it layered and get more in-depth knowledge of the subject or the situation. T number 1, titles. Before you even start to say what it is you want, if you have the time to do this. If you're in a hurry, then just say what you want, right? But if you have the time to sit down and really work on a creative experience, it's titles with an S. You're going to say, you are a 10th grade English teacher. I am a 10th grade student. I've given us both titles. Now it understands better what type of pattern of a response it can give. So if I never give that prompt and I say, help me with my poetry unit, it could help me at a 12th grade level. It could help me at a 2nd grade level. But now that I gave it titles, it has more of a direction on which way it's going to go, and it gives me the patterns that it's going to give me. Right? After titles, the tone. How do you want to receive the output that you get? You are a 10th grade English teacher. I'm a 10th grade student. I'm working on a poetry unit, and I want you to speak very nicely to me and to repeatedly tell me I'm doing a good job. Make sure you use all your pleasantries, and you say please, and you say thank you, but just keep telling me I'm doing a good job. Or if you're like Coach Stokes, hey, cut out all the superlatives. I don't need any pleasantries. I need bullet points. I need facts. Get to the point. Stop with all the fluff. Right? Set the tone so you know how you're going to get the information so you can digest it. Imagine your student doing that, where they're saying, this is how I want to receive the information. This is how I'm going to actually pay attention. Right? And then the last T is the task. Tell it what to do. Okay? I'm a 10th grade student. You're my 10th grade teacher. We're working on a poetry unit. I want you to speak to me straightforward in bullet points with the responses that I need. The task is, I need 10 different ideas of what I can talk about. Right? That's much different than saying, help me with my poetry unit. Or, hey, give me some ideas because I have to write a poem for class. Those are different prompts when I go in there and I say all of these things. But wait, there's more. That's still super basic. If you do these 3 T's, you'll get really good responses. You'll feel good about your experience. But if you really, really want to go off the deep end and get a really intimate experience, you have to evolve the 3 T's into humanizing the experience. So instead of just a title, I'm going to give it a role. What do I mean? You give it its role. You are a 10th grade English teacher at the International School of Helsinki in an IB coordination position. You're giving it more details so it can give you a better pattern of response that you want to receive. I am a 10th grade student. I do not necessarily like this unit, right? Or I have a background in poetry, whatever. You give it more details about who you are, what your role is in this interaction that you are about to have, okay? After the role, you give it a soul. You are a 10th grade teacher at the International School of Helsinki. You teach IB, you are the IB coordinator. You have 3 children. You're from America. You love country music and Western songs. And you are very polite and generous. That's a whole different pattern than saying you're a 10th grade teacher. Right? So I'm going to get a more in-depth pattern. It's going to feel like I'm actually talking to my teacher. The more I can create that pattern, because we all have personas. In my soul, I'm a 10th grade student. I hate poetry. I don't necessarily want to do this. I'm not excited about this. Here's some things I am into. I'm into gaming, I'm into this, I'm into that. I'm giving it more information about my soul and my role in this experiment. And then just like task, you give it the goal. Here's what we want to accomplish. I don't just want 10 ideas. I want 10 ideas that are going to resonate with me, that I can actually articulate to you as the teacher in this situation on how we're going to get the outcome that we want. This does 2 things. This allows you to get a super powered, amazing response back from this pattern generator. But what it also does for you doing the input, look how much work I had to do just to explain that to you. Imagine how much work you have to do to put that prompt in. I can't just sit down and say, hey, I need help on my poetry unit. I have to think, and I have to actually dig deep and define things. And as I define these things, I get a deeper understanding of where I am in the process, what I want out of the process, and I'll be able to quickly determine if this thing gives me something I can use or not use. Text is what it says it uses, right? Generative predictive text. So when we think text message. But as I told you earlier, you can take a picture of something and it can tell you what's happening. This is called ChatGPT Visual. Again, it's still taking patterns, but the patterns of millions and millions of images that it has seen that have been broken down into text as to what they represent. A picture is worth 1,000 words. You guys are supposed to get that pattern. Okay, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So if I give it 1,000,000 pictures, it's translating it differently. So now it can give you feedback on the image you put into it, or it can create an image based on the text you put in it, pulling images from other places to represent the text that you were trying to explain. But text is boring and it's simple. I'd much rather talk. When I go into ChatGPT, I see a blank window like this, and there's a chat box. This is how most of them look. Some of them, of course, can have a different design. And here I can simply type in what I want to do. So you'll notice right next to the chat box, there's a little headphone right there. That means that it can listen. Give me a topic, subject, anything. Somebody.
Traveling in Finland.
Traveling in Finland with, what'd you say? You said smarts?
Smurfs.
Smurfs. Cool. So check it out. Hey, I'm here with a group. We're talking about traveling in Finland with a bunch of Smurfs. I need you to give me a brief story, keep it short, about what that experience is going to be like in the winter because it's super cold out here. There's a lot of snow. I'm afraid I might lose one of my Smurfs in all of this white snow. What should I do? Now it's thinking.
In the Finnish winter, you and your Smurfs explore a snowy wonderland. Imagine tiny blue figures against vast white landscapes. You keep them close, using bright-colored scarves for visibility. The Smurfs are fascinated by the northern lights, their blue faces glowing in awe. To avoid losing any Smurf in the snow, you create a buddy system and use a loud whistle for check-ins. Each night, you gather in a cozy cabin, sharing stories of the day's adventures, a unique bonding experience in the magical Finnish winter.
Well, hold on. Where am I supposed to get a small scarf to fit a Smurf? That makes absolutely no sense. You need to come up with something better. The buddy system is okay. I can rock with the buddy system. We don't see the northern lights here ever because it's too cloudy, so we're not to kill that part of the story. But I need a solution. What am I supposed to do to identify them? Something better than a small scarf, because I'm not going to be able to find any of those. This is where we get into the chat. We start going back and forth.
Got it, Coach.
And we involve, let's talk in a minute.
Let's switch it up. Use glow sticks. They're easy to find and attach to each Smurf. They'll stand out against the snow, especially in the dim winter light. This way you can easily spot them, even from a distance. Plus, the Smurfs would probably enjoy the colorful glow. This, combined with the buddy system, should keep your Smurf team safe and visible during your Finnish winter adventure.
Question. Was there a fact that was incorrect? It was fiction. It was make-believe. But they put it in a way that could be believable. And they used the input that I gave it to give me the patterns back that I desired for the story that I was creating. So how inaccurate was it? Now we're debating what accuracy is. So imagine your child sitting here trying to develop an entire story. I didn't have to write text or type a single thing. We're just having a back and forth conversation. What does that do? What do you hire a tutor for if your child is struggling with something? To sit down, to give them their undivided attention, and to look at what they're struggling with, give them feedback verbally. Who would want a silent tutor, right? These are all the things that we want. So did we just ruin the job of a tutor? Did we just take away that job? We talked about that being one of the worries. I would say, as a former tutor for many years, this would have just accelerated everything because it would have gave probably better responses than I could. But I could take maybe what the student isn't able to articulate, and I could feed it to this, and it would make me a more effective tutor in that moment, and we'd have a more engaged experience. So it's only going to take my job if I'm being lazy, and I don't want to know how to leverage it to make me better at what it is that I do, to be more productive at what it is that I'm doing. But as the tutor, I have to start with a foundation of knowledge to actually say that this information that we are organizing together is correct or incorrect. Pretty cool, right? That's ChatGPT. That just came out in the free version. You hit that little microphone on the side. You get the paid version. The added bonus right now are plugins. So there's a plugin that I love to use. This, again, is another AI platform. However, it's still using ChatGPT. Most of these are using ChatGPT. I'm going to stick with ChatGPT for right now. The paid version, where I get access to plugins, opens this whole suite of basically plugins, accessories on my ChatGPT that I can use to leverage it in a more powerful way. Anybody here own a business? What's your business?
Consultancy.
Consulting in what?
IT. Business.
IT consultant.
Yeah.
Cool. We're going to create a video for you, all right? Is there anything that differentiates you or separates you from what it is that you consult in? Like, is it just IT in general? What's your hook?
It's people. So it's experience and knowledge of how people run in an IT system, in an IT project.
Okay. Very bad prompt, right? But I'm just writing down what you said in a very simplistic way to see what this can do. And I'm going to generate a video. This is using ChatGPT in the background, taking the text, taking stock footage. It's going to do two things for me. It's going to take all of those things, it's going to write a script. It's going to give me stock footage imagery. It's going to give me text. And it's going to try to make, I didn't even tell it what to do. I probably should have said like make an ad or something, right? But I just put that in there to see what comes up. We'll see what happens. But after that thing happens, just like with chatting, I can go back and say, no, this doesn't work for me. Or you need to change this. This part was great. Give me more of that, right? Again, this is using GPT's pattern recognition in the background. That took about less than a minute. There's my script. Here's my video.
Welcome to our IT consulting firm, where people are our priority. We believe in the power of human connection and collaboration. Our team is dedicated to understanding your unique needs and goals. We provide tailored IT solutions that empower your business. From software development to cybersecurity, we've got you covered. Let's work together to unlock the full potential of your technology. Join us in shaping a future where people and technology thrive in harmony.
That will take over your business.
I hope so. Give me a lot more time to do other stuff.
But what, more time to do other stuff?
I would
What
like
just
to
happened
object.
there? Excuse me?
I would like to object.
Yes.
It's like a bunch of Shutterstock videos put together with a nonsense text actually, which is not interesting, not engaging, and I'm not gonna remember it once I leave the room.
Sounds exactly like advertising.
But it's like, okay, it was created for a couple of seconds, but it's still nothing.
But I guess that's.
It's,
But
I would
it's a
argue,
starting point.
I would argue it is something, because he gave me a little more information than I put in there, but I purposely put a very poor nothing prompt. Imagine if my prompt was detailed and my prompt had a script, what it would be able to say. So I can input it in different ways, but input determines output, so I'm glad you had that visceral response. Now, I can go in here and I can change every single word. The footage is unimportant. And being a business owner, if I'm going to create an advertisement, I need to own my footage because it has to be personal to my brand. I'm not just going to use generic Shutterstock footage. But as a student working on a project, I might not have an idea. I just got an idea in less than a minute that spoke out loud to me and gave me visual representation. Now, I can use that as a template instead of writing out a storyboard and guessing how I might feel when I see and hear these things. I felt and I heard these things, I saw these things right now. So now I can go back, I can keep some of it, I can get rid of all of it, say it's nothing, or I can say, you know what, you're kind of going in the right direction, this part sucked, I don't want this, change this, and then I can start to think also, I really love what they said right here, I need to create a better scene than they created, why would I use Shutterstock footage? It even has the watermarks on there. But I can rip all of this video off, I can download it, I can save it, and now this becomes my storyboard to start real creation. Instead of me starting from a blank palette where I might not have inspiration, I might not know where to go.
Okay, it's might be okay as a draft, but with this bunch of drafts, you will never come up with a great idea of your own, which would be nothing like anything else created before. Those machine tools, I work in translations, so those machine tools, they guide you actually. They give you some ideas, and you kind of, you eat it, you digest it, okay, it works, go. But it keeps you from creating the real stuff. I am sure that if you've spent not 20 minutes, but 20 hours on this job, you would come up with a better script, better idea, and better footage. It's okay for students probably just to have an idea, but we all see these ideas already on TV, on YouTube. You just, you go, you load yourself with this knowledge and you proceed. But when you already have something pre-done, it prevents you from going all other directions. Or you have to be super conscious about what you do, super intelligent, like really super intelligent, not like 14-year-old kid actually. And then you can really create something nice. I am not saying that GPT chat or whatever is like that. No, it's okay. But it cannot replace the real creativity of a human.
Yes, and that's why we wrote in bold earlier. I agree. It does not create. We have to be the creatives, but understand how much responsibility you just placed on yourself as a professional, let alone a child. What thoughts do we actually have that are original? What have we actually created that is original? Or are we not just reorganizing the patterns that have been put before us? There's very, very little innovation in the world. There's very few things that are new creative ideas, and that is extremely stressful, which would decrease productivity if I put the pressure on myself that this has to be 100% original, never thought of before. There's only so many words in any language. Yet how many songs are there? How many different pieces of movie works are there? Those things get orchestrated, but it's still the same words. They just rearrange them in different patterns. And if I have writer's block, if I'm stuck, I have nowhere to go, and I get something that gets me going or tells me this is not the right way, I can absolutely get stuck in a loop of I'm still stuck, but this is better than me being stuck in my own head, because now I can start to get some of those thoughts out, see if it's working or not working. You control every single aspect of this. But again, I gave a generic prompt from someone who does not have knowledge, for someone who is not in the business, someone who is not privy to the information that would make it not feel very generic and meaningless. When I put these prompts in here for my personal business, it uses my brand name, it uses my brand voice. I get irritated, I get frustrated if it says something that does not speak in our voice, and I eradicate it immediately because I have vast knowledge of exactly what I want it to represent. I don't necessarily know the output that I want, and sometimes it inspires me to create something else. Sometimes it gives me exactly what I need, but it's something to consult with, consulting agency, right? That I can consult with at a very fast pace. And it's, again, input determines output. It's just a tool. As with any tool, if you don't use it, then you don't get the benefit from it, but that does not mean that it takes away from your experience, and it doesn't mean that you have to have the tool to have the experience. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I agree wholeheartedly, it's not creative. We have to be the creatives, and we have to take control and ownership of what we are creating.
But I guess it depends what you want to use it for, right? I mean, for example,
Absolutely.
If Nicole and I were working on something for the PTO,
Mm-hmm.
you know, this is not groundbreaking, life-changing stuff. We're doing stuff for the community, so maybe we wanted to write something for us for a poster, or
These
so
things are
we
amazing.
don't necessarily want to spend hours and hours being super creative. We can be, but actually, if you're busy, you want it to do something.
I'll go back to what you said.
It's helpful for non-creatives like me.
But if you take the identity of non-creative, everyone's creative, just in their own different way. But you see the constraint that she put on it before. She said, but if you spend 20 hours sitting down, so that was a realistic framework of what it is to actually create something and feel like it's original. Who here has 20 hours to spare? I'm like, where am I gonna get 20 minutes from? With how many children I have, how many responsibilities I have, so to actually dedicate 20 hours to something, probably gonna take a different route, right? Unless it's something that I have to be passionate and focused on, and I want no outside interference, I'm probably gonna take a route, which is like 99% of our livelihood outside of some of those things where we feel like we're in our true essence of creation. But it's very difficult to allot that amount of time to something like that, so this can help us be more productive in the meantime. Guys, you get an email from me, I probably didn't write it. I read it, right? I read it, I made sure the information is correct, but if I sat down and typed out every single email, you'd get a lot less responses from it.
I didn't write the email that I sent you guys. If you got an email from me about this class, I didn't write it. ChatGPT wrote it. I gave it the guidelines of what I needed, and most of what I do is ChatGPT. Social media posts, all of that is not me. But then what you do with it is then you read it and you say, actually, that doesn't sound like me. That's too fluffy, so I'm going to take out. I use fluffy a lot. Yeah, I say it's way too fluffy. Too fluffy for me. Like, make it sound like a bow.
Can I
take out the fluff? Right?
I'll share another real. I told you I'd bring my wife up a few times. I'll share another real life example. I showed up to work one day. The wife and I were at odds the night before, and before stepping foot into the building, I had 17 unread messages. So instant onset anxiety. I know she's not happy, and I know if I go through line by line and I reply to each message, I will not get the desired outcome that I wish. I just let it sit for a second. I said, you know what? Screw it, I'm gonna do it.
Oh my God.
So I copied the whole thread and I threw it into ChatGPT. And I said, hey, my wife and I are arguing. What should I respond?
Oh.
And it gave me a fluffy.
That's terrible.
That is terrible. And this is what happens with students. They will take that initial response and they will copy it and they'll paste it and they'll send it and be like, okay, I solved the problem. That lacks creativity. That lacks doing the work. But I said, no.
None of that's right.
This is too fluffy. Also, to have the desired outcome, why are you putting some of the blame on her? I need to accept full responsibility here or it's not going to work. Let me explain to you the situation. And I went on a rant for about 12 minutes. Straight. Just talking to it. And you know what happened? I realized in that my shoulders dropped. Because I felt like I was being heard. I was able to speak uninterrupted and say my piece. and to get every bit out that I felt like I needed to get out. And then in response, I said, hey, now that I said all of that, and now that you understand what she's going through, what her family's going through, what I'm going through, and I said my piece, now give me the response that's going to make her feel okay. Even still, it didn't give me the response that I wanted, but it was much closer when it had context. I gave it a soul. I gave the context of the whole situation. Then I went back and said, I don't call my wife by her name, I call her babe. Change that part. Give me some emojis that really emphasize what it is that I'm going to say. It's going to be a WhatsApp message. We went back and forth for the better part of 45 minutes. But it was the therapy that I needed that I couldn't get in a conversation directly with my wife because emotion was involved there. And this thing, while it was emotionless, it gave me the emotions that I needed to get out. You want to know how the story ended?
Yes.
So when I finally got to the point that I wanted, I still took it out. And just like you said, it wasn't me. So I had to add some of the quirky little things I do in text messages to make it me. Change a word here or there. It took about 5 minutes. I sent the message. I hit send. And I sweat. And then I got a response. 3 letters. Wow. I still am not sure because part of me is like, I didn't write that full message.
Is it wow or is it wow?
Exactly. So that was my next response. I said, is that a good wow or a bad wow? And she responded, that's a great wow. It's like, I wanted marriage. All right, I got this. Later that night, my wife knows me, we talk, right? Later that night, we're just sitting there, she's like, did you write that message or did AI write that? And for transparency, I said, AI helped me. Those were my thoughts, right? It didn't say anything I didn't want it to say. We went through a really intense session of me trying to say it the way that I want to because when I react off of my initial emotion, we often are disconnected. And it allowed me the space and the time to say it the way that I wanted to really get you the message that I thought you deserved and that you should have. I wanted marriage, right? So it's about the creativity in which you choose to use it. How you leverage it, it's a tool. You can use a hammer to build a home. You can use a hammer to take a life. There's good and there's bad. Or you can just leave the hammer on the shelf. You don't have to use it, but it's a tool that has usage. Right? Me and my work wife that you guys got to talk Smurfs with, we talk all the time. It's much more intimate because of the format of it. However, on the computer, when you are on GPT, it does not allow you to use voice. You only get text and picture input. But when you are on your device, you can use the listen function where it can listen to you, or what's a more safe version, because I just told you guys I don't want these long rants. When you're talking to this thing, and that little speech bubble is going, one, you have to talk quickly. Doesn't matter how fast you speak, it'll pick it up. But if you talk too long, sometimes it'll lose you. And you'll hear this little funny sound like a click. And then after 12 minutes of speaking, it's like, sorry, we're having complications. I didn't need that. Devastating, right? So I try to keep it in shorter windows when I'm doing this type of speech. It's more often when I'm driving and I don't want to fiddle around with anything. But one thing that I've had that's about, I would say around 98 percentile is the little wave button in the text box that's right next to it. So right now, as I'm talking to you, this is recording my voice. It's not going to speak back to me, but it's detecting everything I'm saying. This understands patterns for some reason way better. So if there's pauses, there's ums, there's a comma, a period, the start, stop of a sentence. When I talk to like text to speech, when I'm trying to write something on, say, a Google Doc, I have to say, or even on sending a WhatsApp message, I use the little microphone button to record my words, but put them into text to speech. I have to say full stop, comma, next line, things like that. I have to tell it where the punctuations go. I do none of that here. It interprets all punctuations based on the speed, the tempo, the inflection of my voice. It's registering all of that. So it records it damn near perfectly. And I'm not prompting it to do anything right now, but as I hit that stop button right there, this has a much, much higher percentile of it actually recording that information, and it's all there. So when I go on a 20-minute rant, I do it this way. and then I just hit send. If I don't even know what this is gonna do right now, but it's just reading what I wrote, and now it's just giving me feedback. Oh yeah, this is an impressive feature that we have. So it's talking about what I just talked about in response. So now, again, that sense of loneliness or companionship, if I have something I just need to talk about, I might not need an answer. It might just be someone there to co-sign what I'm saying or give me a little more in-depth or a different perception of what it is that I'm saying. But yeah, that text-to-speak function, highly, highly, I don't want to say accurate, but it does the job very well, as opposed to the speaking version. That's more of a, I'm going to say it's a gimmick because it's highly effective. You saw what it did with the Smurfs, but it's very, I would say about 30% of the time, it will lose me if I get too long-winded, right? And then they have the camera access on here, the image upload, the file upload. This can read your PDFs. It can read your receipts. Anything that has data, it can read it. It depends on what do you want to share with it. What are you okay? Are you comfortable sharing with it, right? So for bookkeeping, I can just take a picture and then I can tell it, hey, make these itemized, put it in a CSV or an Excel format so I can copy and paste that right over. And it saves my time. I don't need to be creative to be productive, right? I can't, we can debate about creativity, go back and forth on that a million times. Can't really debate productivity. If I just need to get something done, I just need a PTO flyer that needs to get out here right now. I don't really care what it looks like. Let me get it done and get it done quicker and just make it look professional. I look the right way. And again, I know what the information is. Yes.
For example, I'm writing a work. I can text them and say, save that file somewhere, whatever I saved, and it will be saved in like a text form, and then later I can work on that.
Yes and no. It's going to save all of your chats. So I wouldn't ask it to save a file for me somewhere. We're getting into something like Zapier, which is a different platform. We want to do things like that. But I could just copy, like I did my wife's messages, copy my work, paste it in there and say, hey, this is what I'm working on. I want to go deeper into this later. Let's have a conversation about it. And then it's going to save that chat, and it's going to always reference that information every time you go into that chat to talk about it.
Have you used it to fill forms, like expense report, like take these receipts and plug them into this report? Does it work like that?
We tried with the business office. Yes, there's ways that it can work like that. You can absolutely connect.
You
those
can build
together.
your own kind of model over that, right?
Exactly, and that's more of a Zapier thing where you're saying if this, then that.
Right.
And you program and you set those. GPT, the paid version, like I said, has these plugins. It also allows you to create GPTs. So right now, I can go on there and create, not my own learning language model, right? Or large language model, but I can go on and create my own GPT that's very specific for the IB. I can create my own GPT that's specific for ISH. And it'll have pertinent information that might not be necessarily open on the internet, but it'll say like, hey, Coach Stokes is here as the tech coach for the school or something like that, who I go to for help in those regards. Another tool, Copilot. So like I said, Microsoft created Copilot. Microsoft bought OpenAI, ChatGPT. So when you come on here, when you see this on your phone, if you get the Copilot app, there's a little button on there that says Enable GPT-4. And you just click the button and you have free GPT-4. If you want your things to be saved and you want to have your old chats, or if you want the access to some of the additional benefits that it has, you'll have to create a Microsoft account. Again, still free. They just want you to have an account, right? I use this one, but it's still more general. I'm still learning this one, but I like this one for image creation because it works a lot more like Midjourney, where it's going to give me 4 different options for the one prompt that I give it. But it also has this built-in designer that allows me to edit the original piece of work as well. It's still very superficial. If you actually know image editing, you would be frustrated with it because of how limited it is, but the fact that you have the option to actually manipulate your AI art is awesome. What do we want to create? And now it's going to generate 4 different images of happiness, right? So this is this interpretation of happiness, but it's a chat. Happier, right? I am just prompting it to do different things, and it's going to continue to give me 4 results every time for what I want to capture. If I gave this a really detailed prompt, see here, this says it doesn't understand, and now I've reached a prompt where I need to be more descriptive. Let's try that on ChatGPT. and you'll see the difference essentially in the power of the two. Even though they're using the same platform, but they have different parameters. I should make some typos as well, because but seriously, like, we always, when we type, it's so inefficient. When we write, it's inefficient, because like, did I spell that correctly? Am I saying it the right word? Is my punctuation correct? It doesn't care about any of that, because it recognizes the pattern of what you're trying to say. And that's why I talk to it more than anything. But you don't want to train yourself to type incorrectly. And I can't break out of that habit, so usually I just talk to it, but you can't talk to the computer version. So a completely different interpretation of happiness. Now let's see how this fights for my poor prompt saying happier, right? It's gonna just keep trying to work and keep trying to fulfill what it is that I want. And I can take this and say, you know what? Get rid of the rainbows. I don't want any birds. Let's get the people out of here. I want this to be just a representation of happiness, but I want it to be devoid of human. Here's the problem with the pattern. Because I'm using the word human, it might continually just keeps putting humans in there. Let's see if this works. No humans. Happier. Right? This is very poor prompting. This does not follow Coach Stokes' secret sauce. I did not set the tone. I didn't give it a title. I didn't give it the task. Right? But I'm going to change that, and I am going to prompt it with some of those things. Okay? It's not the juiciest prompt for the sake of time, but I just said you are a Renaissance artist, and I need a picture of happiness for the queen. Happier! So I keep giving it the same command, but pretty freaking happy. And it did without the humans. Very often it'll continually put the human in there, right? But now I gave it a title. I told him it's a Renaissance artist. So now it's going to set the creation in a different theme and a time period for me to maybe understand more about the Renaissance, right? I have no idea what I'm going to get back, but this is pulling from the data and information from that time. Very, right? Right? Last one. No fictional characters. Happier. Right? So ChatGPT will really, really try to work to find a result. It'll only give you really a block if you're trying to say something that might be discriminatory or like hate speech or something like that. That's when the guidelines will click in and say that we don't create something like that. But happier, no fictional characters. We got peacocks, birds. I don't know if that's necessarily happiness. Yeah. But as you can see, right? And this is all just based on text. Okay? This is not vision though. Vision, like I said, is something different. So I can take a picture. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. And because I'm connected both on the same account on my mobile device and on my computer, these are both happening at the same time. So I took a picture over here. I asked it, what do you see? Now it's telling me everything that it sees. Let me see if I can get this out loud. Yeah. Can you read that back to me and tell me everything that you saw in the image?
Certainly, Coach. There's a whiteboard with the letters LLM written on the left. To the right, there's a Wi-Fi network named Mobile and the password iPad 2018 written down. Above the whiteboard, there's a round wall clock showing it's about 10 past 10. Next to the clock, there appears to be a small speaker or intercom device. On the whiteboard, there's also a flyer or notice attached. And below, there's a trash can against the wall. The room is lit by strip lighting, and there's a window with partially closed blinds on the top right.
That was incredibly descriptive, right? That's what vision does. So
I might have missed something. So, for example, ChatGPT, I was just putting a question like, can you give me an image of super potato, that doesn't infringe copyright? And it said, I don't have the ability to provide images or visual content. Is that because I'm not paying?
3.5?
So I need to upgrade.
That would be it. Or just go to Copilot.
Copilot.
Yep. That's why I use Copilot for the image generation. One, you don't need the paid version whatsoever.
Okay, so
And but that's a good way to word it too. So this happens quite often where my son's like, I want to see something specific I saw on TV. I want to see Lego Ninja. And it's like, okay, we can't recreate Legos. That's a copyright infringement. However, you say, okay, create something like Legos that's not Lego. And then it'll essentially create Lego characters that look quite similar, but they'll get the gist of it, right? So there's workarounds. It's all about your prompts. Bard. Show you guys that one really quick. Bard does not have a standalone app. This is where I feel like it's its biggest downfall and where it's behind everyone else. However, it is Google. So I'm flying to Malta to do a version of this speech to educators. And I made a promise to myself after flying business class on my last business trip, I'm not doing anything else. If I go, it's gotta be business class or better. The school's like, we don't pay for that. You're flying economy. And I said, okay. And I came to Bard. And I got into Google Flights, and I said, find me a business class flight close to the economy cost, and it did it. So I'm flying business class, all my colleagues, sorry. But again, it's how you're creative with what you're using. Are you using it as a tool? Does the same thing. It does take voice from the computer or from the phone, but again, from the phone, you have to use your internet browser. There's no application for it. And you can insert images as well, but it's not as robust as the other ones. The big advantage of this one right now is who's using Gmail, who's using Google Photos, who's using Google to search for something, who's using YouTube, who's using anything that Google owns, and then now it's tapping into its own LLM, its own database, the stuff that Google owns that we've already knowingly given it the rights and the permission to over the last 15, 20 years. It's using that. So this is the one you gotta kind of really be thinking about because it's probably gonna provide a much more immersive experience. And if I showed you guys what Gemini can do, I'll share that resource later. Mind-boggling. But again, it's just translating data. It's translating information, capturing patterns.
And it's also free, right?
100%. I don't know that there is a paid version of Bard that is accessible yet, and it's still like called the Bard Experiment. So I think they're still, the reason they haven't done more is they just want to know that they're in the game, but they're coming.
So they try.
And that's the other thing about this, when we talk about proprietary stuff as opposed to free stuff, when I put the badge of free on it, then I eliminate your expectation for it to be perfect. So now I have put your guard down, I'm giving you free things, and I'm also getting you hooked, right? I'm getting you addicted to what it is that I gave you for free. Google did this. I used to travel and talk about Google Photos. I've done that for the school as well too, right? Because Google Photos used to claim, we are going to give you free unlimited backup at a slightly lower quality of all of your images and videos. And then one day, about 6, 7 years into it, they were like, yeah, sorry, you gotta pay for this now, there's a limit. But you were so ingrained, you're so stuck, and it's like, the price is still better than iCloud, and I'm already here, there's so much there, it's not worth the hassle to go somewhere else. I'll give you $2 a month. So you talk about a very inexpensive cost for you as an individual, but millions of people just pay $2 at a time.
So you use ChatGPT and you use Bard and you use Copilot. Now, Copilot goes with ChatGPT, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
most of them are using the LLMs from ChatGPT.
same, yeah.
And they just put a different package on it. We use something different. Bard, I believe, is separate from what ChatGPT is doing.
So which one do you pay? So you pay for an upgraded ChatGPT?
Yes.
Currently, under, I know everything sort of changed yesterday, but like
Yeah.
currently.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, how do you decide which to use for which thing? I need like a comparison tool.
This is my personal preference. Again, you have to experiment. You got to play with it, right? For me, my personal preference, I use ChatGPT for predominantly most of the things. They have the most plugins, the accessories that you can attach to it to be more productive, and plus it was the first one there, so I'm just used to it, right?